Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, and the live stream schedule is still going strong. Live streams 11 a.m. every Tuesday, every Friday, all about Manchester United. And today is part 3 of the sort of mini series that we've been doing recently, going through the Manchester United team and basically trying to make us better. Not necessarily in terms of recruitment, transfers, and signing people, but actually in terms of improving the systems, etc., that Manchester United use. Now, what we've done in the past 2 streams is initially we did a whole stream for a little bit over an hour talking about Manchester United on goal kicks and how we could improve ourselves in the first phase, make ourselves better at playing out from the back, better under pressure. In the next stream, what we spoke about was ball progression, different shapes that Manchester United could use, the different profiles of player that we needed to try and make ourselves better in the middle phase, better at moving the ball. Now, what we finally get to talk about is the exciting stuff, scoring goals. How Manchester United can become a far more productive team in the final third. Because today, I've got some stats to go through, which showed that last season we weren't very good at scoring goals. So our mission today is to talk about what sort of ideas we need to improve our goal scoring output, and then eventually the sort of starting 11 we need, the types of players that we need, all of that good stuff. But before we get into any of that, I want to talk to you guys, and basically I want to hear from you all. How's your day been? How's your week been? How are you feeling about Manchester United? How are you feeling about pre-season coming up? Because we're getting close now. It's just 8 days away from our first game. So basically, how is everybody? You will also notice in the chat, thank you, David, very much, there are 2 links pinned at the top of the chat for you guys. One of those is a link to our second channel, AJ Talks Tactics, which is all about football still, but just different teams. So we covered the Club World Cup semi-final. I'll be covering the final as well. I want to talk about Tottenham because they're doing a lot of good work. And the other thing you will see linked is also a link to our Discord server as well. Again, completely free to check out. So yeah, why not do it? Why not do it? And like I said, give me guys an update in the chat. How are your lives? How are you feeling? How's life treating you? But also, yeah, how are you feeling about Manchester United? We've also got David in the chat with a gifted membership. David, thank you very much, mate. Very, very kind of you. That is greatly appreciated. Guys, spam some love hearts in the chat for David because he's an absolute legend. Could you guys let me know if there's something new in the chat? Because YouTube sent me an email saying that they've introduced a leaderboard system for live chats where you guys should almost be able to, like, not compete with each other, but see who's the most active in the chat. Is that working for you guys, or is that something that I need to try and sort out for next stream? Just let me know in the comments. I'm not feeling great at the moment. Looks like it'll be a long season. Well, I hope, United aside, I hope you're feeling a little bit better. I understand it's a weird place for Manchester United. I said it in my video yesterday after the training session. We hated the team last season, right? We didn't actually, but, you know, they really put us through it. And the second you get one training session where you see a couple of clips, you see the players back, you see Bruno back, and you almost fall in love with the players again, you fall in love with the club again, and you're hopeful for next season. At the same time, not a lot has changed. We haven't actually sold a footballer yet, which isn't great, and we've only signed one player. Of course, we've got Leon coming in as well, but it's a weird one because we were so poor last season. We were so poor, and it felt like Amorim's hands were tied behind his back for pretty much the entire season. And we haven't really done enough yet to make things better for him. Now, I still think we'll naturally improve. For starters, we've got Cunha. He's better than what we had last season. So for that reason, I think we will make progress. I also think we'll make progress just because the team looks fitter. We look leaner. We look like physically we might be able to compete a bit more next year. But also, from a tactical point of view, Amorim is getting a lot of training time with the players. Last season, for, I think it was like the first 3 months or something, Amorim only had, say, 6 or 7 proper tactical training sessions because we had to do so much recovery sessions after Europa League games. So naturally, having more training time is going to help the team. So I think we will see natural progress. But boy, do we need it. Because in terms of an attacking sense, last season in the league, we were the 16th best team. We scored 44 goals in 38 games, which is not okay. And that's what we need to try and change today. Talk about how Manchester United can attack. A few of you guys saying that the leaderboard thing isn't working. I do apologise for that. I will try and get it sorted for next time. Maybe it's not even in YouTube yet. Like I said, I got an email saying it is, but maybe that's something that I need to figure out. But we will do that at some point. Good morning, Steve. I hope you're well. I think the lack of European football might help. I think it will. I think it will give us greater recovery time. And also, it probably means that we need a smaller squad. We're not going to be playing 70 matches, so we don't need the players for 70 matches. We need the players for 50 odd games. So I think that'll be easier on the squad. United got the worst owners. Spurs get 2 signings in one day. Yeah, feels a little bit like that at times. Extremely pessimistic with those clowns running the club, to be honest. Okay. I think if we bring Mbumo, we can play 2 different ways, depending on if we have Xerxes or Hoyland up front. I think that's a good point. Subscribe to the second channel and join the Discord. Thank you very much for the support. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you indeed. United should have signed Kudus instead of Mbumo. I like Kudus. I'm a big fan of Kudus. But I think if you signed him alongside Cunha, I think they'd be too similar to each other. But I think Kudus is an amazing footballer, by the way. Spurs have got themselves a player there. But I don't think it would have worked with Cunha. I think Mbumo does suit the idea a little bit more in terms of a mixture of profiles. Not all the same thing. Speaking of profiles, speaking of attackers, Manchester United is 16th in the league for goals last season. And sometimes that happens, right? Sometimes we will say, you know, we only scored 44 goals because we didn't take our chances. You know, we created loads of chances, but perhaps the goal scoring was poor. Perhaps Hoyland and Xerxes weren't putting the ball in the net regularly enough. But it's not really the case. If we go to the expected goals, we were still in 12th for expected goals. So we were 16th for goals scored. The underlying numbers had us in 12th, which is still far from ideal. So there is very much a mission here that we have to improve. We have to improve. There is no other way about it. And today what we're going to do to try and achieve that improvement, that growth, is talk through how you guys would like to see Manchester United set up. And I always say this at the start of streams. On videos, I give you guys a lot of my thoughts, my opinions, how I would do things. In streams, I like to hear more from you guys. I like you guys to give your input, kind of lead the conversation a little bit tactically. If you've got ideas, let me know those ideas. If you've got players that you want to experiment with in a different position, let me know what you're thinking. For the first half of the stream today, what we'll do is ignore personnel. We will ignore whether it's Bruno, whether it's Hoyland, whether it's Cunha, whether it's Ahmad, whether it's Dog, whoever. We'll ignore the actual individual. What we're going to start off by doing is actually talk through the profiles. What we feel we need in each position. You know, for example, the central centre-back. How much do they need to do for us in the final third? Do they need to be positioned high or what? The left wing back. Does this need to be a winger profile, someone who can cross a lot? What does the striker need to be? Do they need to be a box presence or more of a false 9? What do we need from the central midfielders? They're the discussions that we're going to have today. And then once we've figured out sort of what we want in an ideal world, we'll try and figure out if the Manchester United players fit into that. And if they don't, then I can try and figure out some signings, some targets, and hopefully we can cover that in another stream. Before we get into all of that, we do have Steve in the chat with the channel membership. Steve, thank you very much, mate. Very kind of you. Welcome to the community. I know you've been in a few streams recently. Good to see you, mate. And guys, just a reminder, if you see someone become a member, if you see someone give a super chat, anything like that, spam the chat with love hearts, flame emojis, W's, anything like that. Just make sure to say thank you, all right? Because it is that support on the channel which really drives us forward and helps us. So yeah, make sure you say thank you when people do that. If you could also leave a like on the stream whilst you're here and subscribe, that would be great. But do that in your own time, because we need to talk about Manchester United. And I think the first thing we need to consider is attacking strategy. I looked into some of the numbers behind Manchester United last season, and this is one of the numbers that I found. This is carries into the final third. And you tend to think if you're performing well here, you're not doing too bad from an attacking sense, because if you're regularly carrying the ball into the box, first of all, that means you're getting yourselves high up the pitch first. But secondly, you're getting into dangerous areas, right? If you're in the final third, if you're in the penalty area, you're doing something good. And to be honest, on face value, United don't actually look like we're doing too badly here. 9th in the league is nowhere near where we want to be, but it's not bad considering how terrible we seem to think we are as a squad. I have just realised, though, that Manchester City carried the ball into the final third 863 times last season, which is absolutely ridiculous. That's insane. And I think Pep Guardiola and City are hopping on the bandwagon a little bit, but also trying to lead football in a new direction of ball carrying. I think it's going to be a massive thing over the next few years. There's been a very tactical game over the past few years, and of course that will continue. But I think we're going to be looking at players that can pick up the ball and carry. City have got 8 Nori in deep positions who can do that. Mateus Nunes, Reinders in midfield. They got Foden, they got Marmoush, they got Doku, they got Savio. They got so many different players that can carry the ball. I think football is going in that direction, and you know, 9th isn't bad, but it's probably somewhere that we can look to improve. We spoke about the other day that Manchester United had a lot of possession, but what we lacked was territory. So we had a lot of the ball, but not necessarily in really dangerous areas. These numbers aren't too bad, but I think we can get a little bit better. And also for the carries into the penalty area as well. So this is carries into the final third. This is carries into the penalty area, where we actually climb one place into 8th in the Premier League last season. But still, we're a way off City, for example. Now, of course we are. We know we're nowhere near as good as City. But City are on 404 carries into the penalty area, Manchester United 230, which again, it doesn't feel too bad. You know, we're around the likes of Bournemouth, Spurs, Newcastle, but it just feels like an area that we can improve. And to sort of figure out how we could do that, I decided to look into some individuals. So what we're going to look at next is the most carries into the penalty area last season in the Premier League. And I hope you guys can see this. There's a lot of numbers on the screen. If this is too small, I apologize. I can kind of drag it and cover my face for 1 second if you just want to sort of see the numbers. But yeah, I've highlighted some players that are at Manchester United or could be at United. You know, if we've been struggling to carry the ball into the penalty area, someone like Mbumo, who was 4th in the league last season, probably isn't a bad idea. You'll notice Garnacho was actually in 6th, Ahmad in 9th, Cunha down in 25th, which obviously we always have to consider the team they're playing for, the amount of possession they have. But I just wonder if, you know, Mbumo, Cunha, the fact that we're linked with these players suggests that we might be looking to go for that approach. I don't actually have the numbers today, but Sporting were a side that carried the ball into the final third a lot. In terms of in the Portuguese league, they ranked very high for their carries into the penalty area. One, because naturally they had a lot of the ball, they were a dominant team, so it was easier for them to do so. But I think it was an important part of their game, and something that we spoke about quite a lot last season, and season before that, and season before that, and season before that, was that Manchester United struggled to carry the ball. We have lacked ball carriers. I think Kobe has helped us address that. I think Ahmad has helped us address that. We saw him ranking well in those numbers. But I think we've always struggled with the ball carrying. For example, Garnacho last season actually ranked pretty well in those numbers, as we just saw. But it was always in wide positions. It was always out wide where he would look to carry the ball, rather than inside the pitch. Bruno Fernandes, when he plays in one of the 210 positions, there is a lack of ball carrying for United into the final third. Those players that penetrate the penalty area. I wonder if we're trying to address that this summer. And if we are, that's a good thing for me, because I am a big fan of people that can take the ball and go past people. All the time I call them system breakers. And the reason I call them that is because they're unpredictable with what they do. Let's say the opposition, right? Let's say they're deep in, I don't know, a 4-4-2, right? Let's put the opposition behind the ball like this. They all have their rough zones that they're meant to be in, right? So they know if the striker is in a certain position as a centre-back, I'm meant to be roughly here. Let's say the midfielder has the ball here. As the opposition defensive midfielder, I'm meant to be somewhere in this position. The second you can go past people, you start to ask questions. Let's say I take the ball in this position and I beat this first player. It immediately asks questions of the next player in line, the next defensive player. Because as the centre-back, is the centre-back now meant to come out and engage the ball but leave a space in behind? Or is the centre-back meant to drop a little bit deeper and now the midfielder's got time on the ball? This is why ball carriers are effective. They also have a lot of tactical gravity, which is a term I use maybe too much, but players that can carry the ball, that are good on the ball, draw people towards them. Opposition players. They draw opposition players towards them. And if you have that ability to kind of draw these players in, it just means space is going to be created for someone else. And I think that's something that United struggled with at times last season. Creating space for other people. And that's probably due to the lack of ball carrying. So I immediately like this as an idea of what United are trying to do. I think the other thing we have to consider from last season, though, was the sort of share of chance creation. So this is shot creating actions in the Premier League last season. Now, of course, for example, we've got Bruno Fernandes who will take corners. So some of this is boosted by set pieces. But the split there is crazy. We've got Bruno on 193 shot creating actions in the league last season. Ahmad is next on 97. That's quite I think it's fair to say over the past few seasons, we've been quite reliant on Bruno Fernandes, and I think those numbers prove it. What I will say is I think Garnacho and Ahmad's numbers are good if you look at the number of 90 minutes they've played, 24 and 21. But we need it. We need it. Boom, just trying to read up in the chat. Look at the gaps between us and Man City on pretty much every single stat. On pretty much every single stat. Unfortunately, Garnacho was doing the carrying and wasting it. Yeah, if we just go back to that, Garnacho was doing pretty well last season in 6th. Like I said, again, we have to consider the position. I think what's interesting with Cunha, he's actually relatively low on the list, of course. But positionally, you know, where on the pitch he does it is quite different to some of the others. Up there, we've got Salah, we've got Doku, we've got Madueke. They would sort of carry from wider into the penalty area. I think Cunha does it from more centrally, which is what makes it quite impressive for me. So whilst he is lower on the list, I still actually think this number's a good reflection. By the way, if you are having issues with joining the Discord server, try that link that Chad just sent in the chat. That may be an updated one. I may need to get the other one updated at some point. Let me go back to the shot creating actions. Steve, unsurprisingly, pointing out that Dalot was 4th for shot creating actions for United last season. And that's just where I think this is maybe a bit of a problem, because I think as a fan base, we all sit here and go, Dalot's useless in the final third. Right? I think a lot of people have said that. He was our 4th highest for shot creating actions last season. So this player who is supposedly terrible was 4th. Now that either suggests that he's that he's a lot better than we think, or 2, the squad's not good enough at creating chances. You know, we've got Christian Eriksen in the top 6. He's not going to be at the football club next season. Casemiro is up there, and he played 16.6 90-minute matches in the Premier League last season. I checked the Liverpool numbers, and they had 5 players with 90 or more shot creating actions. Now, of course, that's me comparing us to the best team in England last season, and we were apparently the 15th best team, so it is quite a jump. We expect that. But to have 5 players creating over 90 chances, and then they had several in the 80s as well, we just look a mile off it. So the question for you guys really is, how do we change it? Of course, some of it is signings. Signing players like Cunha who could carry the ball. Is there a central midfielder we could sign that can carry the ball? Maybe. But what do you guys think tactically? That's where I want you guys to really come into this. What can we do tactically to make us a more attacking threat next season? For example, in certain games, we saw more of that 3-1-6 shape, didn't we? So we would see the back 3, one midfielder, or one solo, like holding midfielder, and then the other one would go higher and get involved in these positions. Is that something you want to see more of? Do you think that's a good way for us to progress the ball? You may have watched PSG the other night, and if you are subscribed to the second channel, link in the chat, you'd have seen my conversation about PSG and how if you block them centrally and you stop them moving the ball forward in the middle, it almost doesn't matter for them, because when they get the ball out wide, they are just ridiculous. Now, it helps that they've got 2 of the best attacking fullbacks in the planet, 2 of the best attacking wingers, maybe the best striker in the world at the moment. They've got a good squad. But, you know, is that something that you would like Manchester United to focus on in the coming months? Do you want us to improve out wide? Or do you think it's a case of getting a little bit better in these half spaces? Or is Zone 14 something that we can utilise more if we've got Bruno Fernandes? Zone 14, by the way, this little space, if I quickly mark it, this space on the edge of the penalty area, that's what we call Zone 14. It's supposedly the most supposedly the most dangerous part of the football pitch. Of course, the answer is, can we improve in all of those? You know, I think that's the ideal solution. Can we improve across every single part of the pitch? Yes. But the question is how. And I'm going to leave that to you guys in the chat just for 1 second whilst I have a drink, because in England right now, it is stupidly hot and I'm struggling. So we need some water. Steve likes the sort of 3-1-1-5 / kind of 3-1-6. I do too. I think we can talk about it as a 3-1-3-3 as well. Something that we mentioned in our last stream on Tuesday was about getting into, for ball progression, so not yet the attack and third, but for ball progression, was about getting into more of a diamond. So could we move into, at times, this sort of shape? If we then naturally transition into that in the final third as well, that kind of makes sense. This is a really good comment from Snicky. We need to increase the tempo in the attack at times, need to push more guys towards the box, utilise the wide centre-backs more. I think the tempo is such a big thing. For example, Harry Maguire, if we just bring him into the conversation, if I can find him, where is he? He is big old Baz. He got fans back on side last season, right? He was much more loved last season, and rightly so. I think he deserves credit for a long time. However, and this is coming from probably his biggest fan, his tempo is bad. There's no dressing it up. His tempo is bad on the ball. You know, he's a good long passer. He's an excellent long passer. He's a good carrier from the back, and he even passes through the lines really well. But the time it takes him to do it, just, isn't quick enough. Sometimes you almost want to give him a kick up the backside to sort of be like, all right, let's, put some pace into it now. I think, particularly at Old Trafford, we had that problem a lot. When teams were sitting deep behind the ball and letting us have it, they felt safe. They felt comfortable. There was a lot of sideways passing around the back, and United weren't aggressive enough with moving the ball. Is it a case that whilst Maguire does offer us so much, do we need someone different in that middle centre back role? Do we need a different type of profile? And if so, what is that profile? I think the wide centre backs as well, as you guys are mentioning, is something that we need to use more. There were certain games where we did. There were certain games last season. I remember, when was it? Was it January, February time, around there somewhere? Lisandro Martinez, I think it was just before he got injured. I think, perhaps I'm wrong with that. I think it was just before he got injured, and we saw a spell where he was popping up from left centre back. When United were aggressive and really dominant on the ball, he was getting into these areas really nicely. He was becoming an extra attacker for us. He scored a goal against... Was it Fulham he scored a goal against? He scored against Liverpool as well, didn't he? He scored against Liverpool. And he had a game where he scored like a deflected effort from the edge of the box around this sort of position. I think that's something that we can do more, because not only does it give you more players forward in advanced areas to, create an opportunity, an extra player there to try and make something happen, but also I think it helps you to sustain attacks as well. Because when you lose the ball in these positions, if your defenders are all the way over here, the opposition do have that chance to quickly transition and gain territory quickly. Whereas if you are pushing your players a little bit higher, you almost have that effect of suffocating the opposition. So let's say they win the ball back in this position here. If all your players are high, you can quickly get round the ball. You can quickly get towards them and stop them ever getting back out. And I think often what we'll find is actually these moments are some of the most dangerous attacking moments. Not your initial wave of attack, but when you lose it to a defender, but then quickly win it back again, that's when I think you can be really dangerous. Because the opposition, when they win it back initially, they sort of start to open up, right? Those wingers who are defending because they've been told to, they start to try and steal a few yards, they try and go forward, the team on the ball quickly opens up. I think if you can then win the ball back almost instantly, that's where you can be more dangerous. And I think that's something that I would like to see from United next season. That ability to, yes, get the ball into the final third in the first place, but actually sustain it. So let's say we lose the ball, we can quickly gain it back and have that effect of almost wave after wave of attack. More difficult to do away from home, obviously, but I think at Old Trafford in particular, that's something that we should try and do. Rather than have the ball ticking over here, like we were talking about a few days ago with those ball progression issues, can we kind of have the ball dominant in these positions? That's something that I personally would love. If we can suffocate teams a little bit more, that's something I'd be looking for. By the way, guys, like Steve has said in the chat there, could we please avoid messages with all capital letters, please? Looks a little bit messy in the chat and comes across as kind of shouty, which I don't think we need. Let me just read the chat. I'm trying to find a message. Yeah, you were right. He created 3 chances from that side and dangerous crosses and scored a goal. Exactly. I think Yoro started to do it as well more as the season went on. I don't know if it was tactical instruction. It's difficult to know exactly. Or if it was confidence. If it was someone becoming a bit more comfortable in their environment. But he started to play with a swagger a little bit more, didn't he? We started seeing him going on those sort of aggressive carries, moving the ball forward and sort of driving forward with the team. I think he can do that more. I also think, if we're talking about individuals real quick, Dallo in the back 3, for example, could do that. Mazraoui in the back 3. Luke Shaw. Those fullback profiles that are moved into the back 3. I think we have to use them more. I think we have to kind of take advantage of their ball playing ability just a little bit more. What I'm interested to hear from you guys is what you think about the midfielder. Because, like I said, towards the end of last season, we did move towards this shape where it was the back 3, then it was sort of 1 in front, and then sort of, 5 and then a 1 or a 3 and a 3, whatever. But what do you think this guy should be doing? Is this someone who needs to be super creative? Because obviously we're trying to find that Bruno Fernandes partner. And I don't think we see him as a holding midfielder. We don't see him as someone who sits at the base because he's too good in the final third. He's too good up here. So for his partner, there's been so many conversations this summer already about, do we need a ball carrier here? Do we need someone who's elite defensively? Do we need someone who dominates the game with passing? Do we need someone super creative? What do we need here? What do we need here, actually? Does this player have to be super progressive? Does he have to be pinging the ball and kind of splitting lines into the feet of the striker? Or does he actually just need to be a sort of a safe player, not someone who dictates the attack, but someone who kind of supplements it. You know, you give the ball to him and he's going to keep the tempo and just move it elsewhere rather than grabbing it and being the main man. Because I personally think we've got a couple of players who are sort of the main man. Bruno Fernandes likes to be that guy who goes and gets the ball and is like, give it to me, I'll make something happen. I think Cunha is quite similar. I think Ahmad in moments has something similar. If you have too many of those players, it becomes a bit of a problem. If you've got too many players that want so much of the ball, it becomes a bit problematic. Sometimes you need that player who is actually just the one that just takes a touch and gives it to someone else. Just takes a touch and gives it to someone else. You do need those players. So, what do you guys think about that? Ignore for now a name. You know, don't necessarily give me a signing or a Manchester United player that should play this position. What should their job be for Manchester United attacking? Not playing out from goal kicks, not trying to progress the ball, not defending counterattacks. Ignore all that just for the purpose of this stream. Again, it will make more sense in a few days. Purely Manchester United in the final third. We're trying to break a team down. What would you like to see from this player? What do you want them to do? For example, press resistance isn't too important here because they're not, they're not against a press because they're higher. It's a weird sort of experiment to go through. I understand that, but almost ignore the rest of the football pitch. Just imagine Manchester United against perhaps a newly promoted team who might sit really deep behind the ball. United have got 70% of the ball in these positions. What do you want this guy to do? What do you want this guy to do? And also, the same conversation, what do you want the wide centre-backs to do? What do you want the wing-backs to do? The way that Steve mentioned it or described this the other day was we're sort of giving the job description for each position. So the left wing back needs to do this, 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 and this. The right central midfielder needs to do this, 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 and this, rather than actually giving names for now. We're creating a job description, then we're going to find some candidates that can go into that position. That's what we're trying to do here. Comfortable on the ball, good passing range, decent carrying, not prone to taking risks. I think that's a good point, the not prone to taking risks. We've probably got enough players that are going to lose the ball. And that's not a criticism of those players, but, Bruno loses the ball. He does. Cunha loses the ball. Ahmad tries a lot, so will lose the ball. Sometimes you just need that retention point, someone who can keep it. The question I guess that I'd like to put forward is, do we have players that can already do that, maybe? Possibly. Bro was only mentioning Steve. It's because we've got two different Steves going on, so it sounds like I'm talking about Steve a lot, but we've got two different Steves. We need a fit Rodri. That'd be ideal, wouldn't it? I think in the Premier League, it's someone who knows to hold pressure, tempo, and cover a lot of spaces. Again, I think tempo is a good word there, because if our central centre-back can't always provide it, Maguire, De Ligt, they're not really tempo setters. Maybe this guy needs to be it. You need someone comfortable on the ball and able to pass through the middle of the pitch. See, do you think Amorim agrees with that? Because obviously what we've seen a lot of last season was actually that our ball progression came out wide. These were the sort of areas that we focused on a little bit more. Was that because we lacked the ability to progress through the middle? Or because Amorim didn't want us to? You probably don't have the definitive answer to that because you're not Amorim, so you don't know. But what do you think might be his thought process there? Collier has the base for it, but I just don't think he's good enough all round. Yeah, I've said it a few times. I think Collier is a good player for United. I think he's a good squad player to have. A metronome passer. There was a time Cobby was putting up good defensive numbers, but he got injured. Start of last season, I think he was near the top for most of our defensive ranks, wasn't he? Well, I like this comment. The left centre mid / kind of the 6 in this position should take up great positions to collect loose balls. They should be able to quickly play passes to the 10s or switch the ball to wide areas. I like the idea of that. So not necessarily trying to split a line and find the feet of the striker, but can they play diagonal passes? Not necessarily long range diagonal, but just these ones. Just these ones that you slip into your outside 10 in this position here. Because when United get into this shape, which we saw against Villa in the last game of the season, a lot of teams at the moment defend in a 4-4-2. If you can get 3 behind your striker, they all have that luxury of not necessarily being man-marked by one individual. Let's say, just for this, right? Let's say United were in more of a box shape. These 2 central midfielders are going to pick up the 2 10s. Whereas when we push that extra one into that slot, it makes it more difficult. It's like all three of our players are roaming in spaces rather than actually fixed up against a man. And that's where, yeah, perhaps those passes, which you just slip into that little bit of space there, and then you let these guys express themselves. You let these guys take the risks. Massive Onana in there would slap. I'm a big fan of Onana. Yeah. Someone who can progress the game higher, good creative passing range, doesn't lose the ball. See, with that, what would you prioritize? Because you've said two things there: good creative passing range, doesn't lose the ball. Rodri, right, can create, but actually his passing percentage numbers are very good. Finding that is quite difficult. So if you had to pick one, would you rather, let's say you can only have creative or retention, what would you go for? Just out of interest. Just out of interest. Also needs to be fairly comfortable, accurately passing on both feet would be great. You guys know me. If a central midfielder or any footballer for that matter can play with 2 feet, they are going to go up in my estimation. Footballers should be 2-footed. That will always be my opinion, right? From the age of 4, I was taught to kick a football with both feet. I think all players should be able to do it, but not all of them can. If you can get that 2-footed passer, it does help because it removes some of the angle bias. We've had the problem at the club for a few years now. We've got so many right-footed players, particularly, who was it? Yeah, it was last season, of course. Diogo Dallo had a phase at left wing back. And I think Lisandro Martinez was injured at the time. So we had a left wing back who was right-footed. The back 3 were right-footed. And we were just kind of all pass the ball to one side of the pitch. We were so predictable. We need to add some unpredictability. So some left-footers would be nice, but also some 2-footed players who are difficult to read, who don't have a massive bias one side. I think a lot of it is next season becoming more unpredictable. You know, I think last season you could almost look at United, and before the game started, you could say what's going to happen. You could, let's say it's a game United were going to be dominant in and have a lot of the ball. We could almost go, all right, United are going to set up like this. The opposition will do this. We'll probably do well here, but we'll probably struggle here. I think so many of the games were quite predictable. I think that's what we need to try and change. I think that's something that we need to try and do. In terms of, you know, that's almost given, we're talking about the foundation here, almost the base to let these guys go explore. How do you let them explore? What do you want to see in the final third? For example, there's been a lot of cutbacks at United. That's something that we've worked on quite a lot for the last couple of seasons. Getting into these positions, not necessarily fizzing a ball across for the striker, but instead cutting that ball back into this space here. I think that's something we've done very well. How do we actually, though, get the striker more chances? Because this idea of cutbacks, I like it, but the striker's used as more of a decoy rather than the actual goal scorer. What would you like us to do to get the goal scorer scoring goals? Whether that's a new signing, you know, we might sign a new striker. I don't know. I don't know if we will. But Højlund and Xerxes as well, flawed individuals, right? They've got parts of their game that they need to improve. But I think everyone would agree last season we didn't create enough chances. So yes, they missed some chances. Yes, they weren't perfect themselves. But collectively as a team, we didn't do enough to actually get them goal-scoring opportunities. We saw it in the XG earlier, right? Let's go back to the stats. It's not like Manchester United. You know, we finished 16th for goals scored. It's not like we missed loads of chances. Because even in the XG, we were still 12th. So, you know, yes, we missed a fair amount of chances. But even if we'd scored all of our chances, we still only would have been 12th in the table. You know, roughly. So we need to create more. It's not just about signing a goal scorer who can take 90% of his chances. It's not just that. We need to create more chances in the first place. And how do we do that? How do we do that? How do we get ourselves into the final third? Would you sign Nicholas Jackson? I've seen talks this morning that Chelsea could potentially be looking to let him go. I'm not surprised they're looking to let him go just because of the signings they've made. Chelsea are a bit of a weird football club. I think he's a good player, Jackson. I do think he's very good, actually. I think he's quite underappreciated. Quite like him. I don't know if he's exactly what United need. I'd probably have to watch more of him to know. I don't think he's that ruthless goal scorer necessarily that we're looking for. But in terms of an all-round player who can do a lot of different jobs, get in the channels, but also can hold the ball up, there's kind of something there. But I would need to watch a lot more of him to really give a proper opinion, to be honest. Because right now I just haven't seen enough to really give it a fair say. I don't know how pro footballers don't know how to play with both feet. I practiced for 1 month and had a better weak foot than Anthony. It drives me mad seeing one-footed players. I think left-footed players seem to have it a little bit more. I like underlaps, especially if the far side wing back backs up the far post, so the inside forward and 9 can attack the front and middle. So this is something I've been thinking about, right? Because Manchester United last season put an emphasis on cutbacks. And a lot of those cutbacks come from the wing backs kind of coming in diagonally into the box. So they come into sort of this position here towards the byline, and then they're going to cut the ball back. Down the left, Patrick Dorgu. Left-footed, that's sort of a natural angle for him to play that ball. He doesn't have the best final delivery at the moment. He's still a young player, not necessarily an elite attacker in the final third, right? He needs to grow. But you get the idea that from his left foot, that makes sense to play that ball. The question I have is a bit more down the right-hand side. Because let's say, the ball is played into that channel, Ahmad gets here. If he's looking for early cutbacks, is it going to be on his weak foot quite a lot? Because he's the left-footed player. But the natural early cutback, which we look for, is more of a right-footed action from this position. So that's something that I've been thinking about. Does that quite work? What do you guys think? Or is it a case of perhaps we're going to be a bit more unbalanced almost with the attacking idea, and by that I just mean different on both sides. So for example, on the left side there may be more of an emphasis on getting to the byline and cutting the ball back. On the right side we've got two left footers who probably want to come in and shoot. Let's imagine we sign Mbumo, we're linked with him. It does make sense to include him in the conversation. They kind of both want to come inside more. So is it a case that perhaps we're going to see different roles on both sides of the pitch? Possibly. He isn't a goal scorer yet, but I've watched so much, and Chelsea, I'm convinced it's a confidence thing. He seems to be one of those players a little bit, Jackson, where players that have to just finish quickly can finish it. It's those ones where you get longer to think about it, where sometimes you mess up a bit. Darwin Núñez, for example, is a good example. If he's got to kind of snapshot, I think he's pretty good. It's those ones where he almost gets in his own head that seem to be the problem. I could see Jackson maybe being a little bit like that. Ahmad did get an assist, basically doing that with his right foot towards the end of the season. Of course, Ahmad is a two-way threat. He can go both ways. He can cross with his right foot. He absolutely can. But is it ideal? Or is there something else that we're trying to think of here? I don't know. Why are we not using Yamal's cross? I think they are the most dangerous. Well, I'll be honest, right? If we are signing Mbumo, maybe we are, I don't know. Slightly fed up of talking about him. But if we are, he likes that Yamal cross. This sort of area here, this zone, crossing left-footed towards the back post, he absolutely loves it. That's where I've got a sort of, I want to challenge the players on the far side. The left wing back, if it's Dorgu, if it's Dallo, if it's Amas, if it's Leon, if it's a signing, I don't know. But can they get in around the back post? And the same for Cunha as well. In that left-hand position, can he be someone that is going to attack around the back post? So as Mbumo cuts in, if he signs, we don't know if he's going to, but this could also be Ahmad. Ahmad can cross from here. I want to see more numbers basically for the striker, because Højlund and Xerxes were often isolated in the penalty area. If we're going to get deliveries and qualities delivery into the box, it's only worth it if the guys in the middle are actually there to score the goals. So I'd like to see us doing that a little bit more. Commit those extra players forward. Almost take the handbrake off a little bit is how I labelled it a few times last season, where, we saw the crazy Europa League comebacks against Lyon, where suddenly we take the handbrake off, we throw things at it a little bit more, suddenly we can score goals. Now, of course, that was a weird one. There was Maguire up front and everything. But generally speaking, I think last season when we went for it a little bit more, a lot of these players show that they are good attacking players that can score goals. So I think some of it does come back to Amorim as well, and the freedom, the license to express themselves. The freedom that he gives to players. I think he needs to do more there. I do think he needs to let them go and figure things out. I think what we often get in football is, particularly the last 10 years perhaps, there's managers that focus so much on pattern, system. So player A passes to B, and then player C is going to run here, and then B passes to C, and player D's over it, whatever. Certain patterns. I think what the best managers do is, yes, have their structure, yes, have certain patterns of play, we need that, but also let players problem solve themselves. Let players almost take responsibility and figure things out. Again, I think that's where someone like Cunha is good. He's a problem solver, he's a maverick on the ball, he's a ball carrier, a system breaker, I would call him. Let him go do that sometimes. Bruno Fernandes, of course, is another one of those players, right, who can create something from nothing. I think it's important that you don't... restrict him too much with a certain idea that our pattern has to be like this. Sometimes let him play off the cuff and let him do random stuff, because that's when you see magical moments that unlock defenses. So I think it's important, especially when you've got good players, which hopefully we're going to have going into next season. I think it's important, yes, to coach them, yes, to give them the patterns of play, whatever, but also just let them do things. Let them do things. When you watch PSG, the structure is obvious. There's players pinning people, whatever, but also they are given the license to problem solve, to take the ball in different areas to what you'd expect. And I'd like to see us trying to do that. I'd like to see us try and do that. Ahmad crosses from very close range, which minimises the chance of a bad pass with his weaker foot. Yeah, the cutback from here is easier on the weak foot than, for example, a 60-yard crossfield ball is. Absolutely. I just wonder if it's something that naturally works. I'm looking at the dynamics. If we were to get Mbumo and Ahmad this side, and let's say Cunha and Dorgu that side, there's been a lot of talk about Amorim and weak-footed wing-backs, a right footer on the left, a left footer on the right, and the 10s needing to be ball carriers, but are they left-footed or right-footed? It would be very un-United-like in the past 10 years to have a left-footed left wing-back, a left-footed right wing-back, and a left-footed right 10. I can't think the last time Manchester United ended up with a front 5 on the attacking line with 3 of them being left-footed. It doesn't really feel like something we do that often, really. Maybe that's just me. I still would quite like a left-footed central midfielder as well. Ahmad's heading baffles me, but it's great. Real proof that sending the far wing-backs in for crosses really works. It's taken those chances, and I think a lot of that is player instinct. If you put Mazraoui in this position, right wing-back, and ask him to attack back post, you can probably do it, but it's not his instinct. When he sees the ball, let's say here with Bruno, right? He sees the ball here with Bruno. Imagine this is Mazraoui. Is he someone with that killer attacking instinct, like the ball might go there, I'm going to gamble, defender might make a mistake, I can score a goal? It's not really his instinct, right? Whereas when you put Ahmad there, who is an attacker, his instinct, the way he's always played football, is get the ball in the opposition goal. I think they sort of look for those opportunities more. I think that sort of player kind of goes after that more. Højlund left-footed as well. Yeah, so actually we did have it last season, right? With Ahmad, Højlund, and Dorgu. That could be 4 left-footers then. That could be 4 left-footers across the front 5. Because I believe we had, I think it was last season, during that phase where it was Dalot left wing back. Who would have been in the back 3? De Ligt played as one of the wide ones at one point, didn't he? So it would have been perhaps De Ligt, Maguire, Yoro, Mazraoui played wing back. Remember those days? Dalot and Mazraoui as wing back. Say Bruno Casemiro midfield. Maybe Ahmad was injured at the time. I'm sure there was a spell where we had every single player in the team being right-footed. So to suddenly end up with 4 left-footers on the front line would be quite a change from what we've had recently. Ahmad can get inside the pitch and Mbumo can do the cutbacks, the overlapping for Ahmad. I think it's crucial that we get exactly that. Whether it's those 2 individuals or not isn't too important. I think it is crucial that we see rotations. Not, you're the right wing back, you got to stay there. You're the right 10, you got to stay there. You're the striker, you got to stay there. Move, combine with each other, drift into different positions. So as your striker drops deeper, can your forward go past him? Or if your wing back comes narrow, the winger has got to go wider. Things like that. I think we started to see that more and more last season towards the end as we got more used to it. But I think, again, it can go up a level. I think we can see it even more. Dalot too has that instinct. When Bruno has the ball, he shows a level of trust and relation built between them. Exactly that. I think it's the chemistry between them, right? I think it's the Dalot knows if Bruno's got the ball, the run is there. It's not quite the same, but Mbappe always said that about Pogba for the French national team. When Pogba gets the ball, Mbappe knew that he didn't really need to look. He just had to run because the ball would come. I think some of our players have that with Bruno. Dalot is one of them, weirdly, even though he's a fullback. And that is actually a really good point to raise. It's not just about, is it a fullback or is it a winger? It is the player instinct. Is this a player that by nature attacks space? Yes or no? Mazraoui, not so much. Dalot, probably yes. Ahmad, yes. Dorgu, somewhere in between a little bit. What matches for Anton Stack would you suggest I watch? What I would do if I were you is not necessarily pick a match where he necessarily got a great match rating. It's good to watch a combination of good performances and bad performances. I would maybe look for a game where his side didn't have much of the ball to see how he defended in those situations. and then look for a game perhaps where they had loads of the ball to see how he done in a team that dominated, and then maybe find a game where it's a bit more 50-50, just to sort of see the player in a few different game states. That's probably a good starting point, rather than just where was his best performance. That's probably how I would do it if I were you. Just tuned in, what are we discussing? We are discussing how Manchester United can score goals, because last season we didn't. We didn't. Anyway, what I want to quickly do is talk about starting 11 then. Again, ignore United goal kicks, ignore build-up, ignore defending, ignore set pieces, just for today. Just for today. Of course, those things are important, but not for today's conversation. What would your starting 11 be in terms of a Manchester United team? Let's put this into a bit of context, actually. Let's say United are 1-0 down against a team that we should not be 1-0 down against, right? Perhaps one of the newly promoted teams next season. And we're 1-0 down with 20 minutes to go at Old Trafford. Therefore, the opposition are sitting incredibly deep trying to protect their lead. And we're knocking on the door. We're trying to score a goal. What 11 would you want on the pitch? If you could choose right now. And I'll let you put Mbeumo in there because we're speaking about him a lot. I still think it will happen. Hopefully. I'm tired of the situation, but hopefully it will. What 11 would you want on the pitch when we're 1 goal down and we need to score? And, you know, not Maguire up front. Not Maguire up front. I know someone's going to say it. Not Maguire up front. Players in their normal positions, roughly. What would you go for? See, Bobby the Bob. I knew you were going to say it, mate. I was 1 step ahead of you. Dalot is better than Mbappe, I can confirm. Yeah, I think we've confirmed that in this stream, to be fair. That's sarcasm, by the way, for anyone who is not familiar with the channel. That's where we bring in Ahmad off the bench. Yeah, sure. Into what position? Where would you put them? What I'd like you to do, guys, is in the chat, list the positions and put the player there. So, left centre-back, blah, blah, blah. Maybe it's Lisandro Martinez. Maybe it's Shaw. Central centre-back, we need a goal. Who? Right centre-back, we need a goal. Who? Left centre-mid, we need a goal. Who? And I don't want to see a back three of, you know, Bruno, Ahmad, and Xerxes. You know, be realistic, be sensible. Let's see some teams. So Snipes says Onana, Yoro, Delict, Licha, Bruno, Kobe, Ahmad, Dorgu, Bumo, Cunha, Chido-Obi up front. Snicky says Licha, Maguire, Yoro is a back three. So is that the same? Oh no, you've got Maguire instead of Delict. Dorgu, Bruno, Casemiro, which is a good shout because he is a player who passes the ball well. If we actually just go back to those numbers earlier, he was up there for shot creating actions despite not really playing that many games. Also, so was Kobe, by the way. He only played 18.390s. Ahmad is guaranteed for a right wing back, no ifs or buts. Let's have a look at some of these teams. Let's try and visualize some of these teams. So, people the other day were asking if we could just put no goalkeeper in, and no, we do need a goalkeeper, so we'll put Onana in. What do you guys think of Shaw? I know you're not allowed to say Shaw these days because he's never fit. We can't rely on him. He's whatever. But if you need a goal, he's not a bad option. He's not a bad option when you need a goal. I will just say that much. His deliveries from the left are good. Just saying. But let's not. Where is he? Lisandro Martinez, Bosch. Yoro, I think, goes in there as well. Where is he? There he is, Bosch. I think those two are good. I think if you need a goal, they are quite handy. I think those two as your outside centre-backs, you know, Yoro can carry it and pass sometimes. And Lich is an amazing passer, isn't he? His progressive passing is a joke. I still think he's one of the best on the ball. He's just quality, isn't he? I love watching him. Mazraoui is someone that you could put into this list because, you know, he's a fullback, so you would expect he's more attacking than a centre-back because he's more used to being in the final third. You know, that's where he's played more in his career. Dalot? I want to put his name into it. For example, right, if purely your focus is to score a goal in the last minute, is there an argument that you would go for this as your back three? Like I said, you're 1-0 down. You're really trying to not quite throw the kitchen sink because it's 10 minutes too early for that. But, you know, you're really trying to knock on the door and score a goal here. Is there an argument that this back three would be pretty decent? Maybe. I didn't include Licha because he's injured. Yeah, that's fair. That's understandable. Yeah, Heaven is another good shout because of his quality on the ball. Did you have him as the middle one, David, or did you have him to one side? You had him to the left with Yoro in the middle. Yeah, you had Mazraoui in yours, David. I think that's not a bad shout at all. Oh, you also had Mount in your team. Ooh, David, in your team, you've got a front three of Mount, Mbumo, Cunha. I'm intrigued to know, out of Mbumo and Cunha, who do you have as the more central one? Who would you have as that more central one? Onana, Mazraoui, Yoro, Martinez, Dallo, Bruno, Ugarte, Leon, Cunha, Mbumo, Rasmus. By the way, guys, if I don't read your messages, I apologize. You can see it's a busy old chat today. I don't know how many people we've got in here. I'm trying to read as many messages as possible. If I don't read your message out, I apologize. I think a lot of communities do it so that they only read messages out that are super chats. I don't want to do that. I want to include as much of you as possible. But yeah, I can't read out every single one. But I try my best. So yeah, if you could bear with me. Cunha as the striker. I think it's interesting that we saw him sort of drifting there in the training session. And Bumo could probably do something similar as well. De Ligt is our best centre-back. Marcus, we are not talking about the Manchester United best starting 11 right now, if you're not familiar with the context of the stream. We're talking about 85th minute, let's go 80th. United are 1-0 down. The opposition are parking the bus. Not what is Manchester United's best starting 11. What is United's best 11 to score a goal late? That's the question. I'd sub Yoro for Maguire for the corner ability, long balls. Yeah, that's also completely fair. Absolutely. Yeah, by the way, guys, I can't guarantee this, but Steve has said it there. Apparently, if you like the stream, it makes it more likely that I'll see your chat. I'll be honest, that's a lie. But if you could please leave a like on the stream anyway, that'd be kind. You know, it kind of helps. YouTube pushes the stream out to other people. The channel grows. We make improvements. You guys get better content. The channel grows. We make improvements. You guys get better content. You know, it's a good cycle to go in. So if you could leave a like, subscribe, get notifications on, it would be very, very kind. If you don't, then United will get relegated, apparently. Allegedly. Yeah, like I said, I think Maguire is a fair option for that middle centre-back position as well. Set-piece threat and stuff is a completely valid point. Who would your midfield two be? I've seen Bruno is going to be in everyone's. It makes sense. You need a goal. You drop Bruno deeper, so he's got more influence. Perhaps this is going to be his starting position next season, possibly. Why are you so honest, AJ? Because I don't want everyone shouting at me like, "You're lying. You can't do that." My sources tell me that when we hit 100 likes, AJ will stand up on his chair and dance. Let's get to 100 likes and see what happens. All right, let's do that. It's worth a try, right? You want to see if I do it now, don't you? So you might as well leave a like. Who do we think is the? You know what? I'm tempted to take Euro, even though I think he's one of our best players, of course. But for scoring a goal, let's put Maguire in. Who's the Bruno partner when we need a goal? I don't think it's Ugarte. No disrespect to Ugarte. I just don't think goal scoring, you know, helping a team push forward with urgency and creating a chance is not really his game. So I don't think he comes into this conversation. It's not Collier, again, for the same reasons. It's either Casemiro or Kobe, I think, in terms of the current United players. Maybe we'll sign someone. We've spoken about this player needing to be able to quickly move the ball. Casemiro moves the ball quite direct at times, doesn't he? He is quite direct with his play. Is he too direct? Possibly. Kobe's a nice option. Because of the fact that he can combine with Casemiro as well, with Bruno. That they can sort of swap. And Kobe can go and operate in these tighter spaces where his footwork's good and he can link with the forwards. So I think that's a good option. Yeah, Marcus, all good, mate. It's fair if you didn't have the context from earlier. It's probably Casemiro. I think it probably is. Yeah. I suspect Ugarte can be a good box crusher. Was it Everton he scored a really nice goal against? Left foot, edge of the box. What if there is a case where Mount moves to midfield with Bruno? See, I like that. Trying to find a different solution. Could Bruno drop in as the deepest midfielder? Could Mount come into that 10 role where you sort of, or you start centre mid, but you play high because we're chasing a goal? Possibly. It's quite a nice option, actually. I quite like that. Because then Bruno would constantly be facing everything. Again, if we're chasing a goal, this isn't a 90-minute strategy. It's a 10-minute we need a goal strategy. Bruno sitting here and just having everything in front of him and he can just hit passes to everyone isn't a bad idea. That's not a bad idea. Yeah, by the way, guys, if you wish to watch former live streams, at the moment they're only available to members. I might be changing that. I'm not too sure. I might be changing that. In fact, I think I will change it. I think I will make it accessible to everyone. Should we change? We should change it, shouldn't we? I should make it available to everyone. We should do that. Do you guys like that? How many likes are we on? Chad, can you set me a like goal for this stream, right? And if we hit it, then former streams will be available to not just members, but everyone. Particularly from this little mini-series we're doing at the moment. So, Chad, you can set the like goal for that to happen, mate. So, if this like goal is high, blame Chad, and he's responsible for everything. Blame Chad. Anyway, into the forward positions. Wing backs, we need a goal. Right side, I think you guys pretty much all said Ahmad, which is pretty logical to me. Left side is less obvious. I think at times last season we would say, you know, you could push Garnacho out there. You could push Garnacho to the left-hand side, use more of a winger there, and look to attack. We're probably losing something in the squad there. Pardon me, I do apologise. We're probably going to lose something in the squad if we lose Garnacho. We don't really have a player who can go play wide left that isn't a fullback. All right, guys, Chad has set you a challenge. 150 likes, and I will make it so that all the streams from this little mini-series are available. You won't have to be a member to watch the old ones. So we've done 2 so far. We looked at goal kicks and we looked at ball progression. Those will be available to everyone if we can hit 150 likes in this stream. Okay, so it's over to you guys. It's over to you guys. 150 likes. I think we can do it. So quickly leave a like on the stream. And then all future streams will also be available as well. Okay? I think that seems pretty reasonable. I think that's reasonable. Why is Delict not in the 11? Yeah, just again, a bit of context. This isn't necessarily United's best 11. It's United's best 11 if it was the last minute and we need to find a goal. It's the 85th minute, we need to find a goal. Something like that. Why can't Mount play in the middle with Bruno? Yeah, in this system, we have got him there. We have got him there as we're trying to push forward for that goal. Yeah, I think the left side, we do lack that natural attacker. You know, Dorgu is a fullback pushed into a wing-back position. Shaw is the same. Shaw's not a bad option, even though everyone hates him. He can cross. Very good delivery. So he's actually not a bad shout. You know, Dallo, you'd think he'd want to cut inside too much so it doesn't work. Diego Leon, good attacking player. He's probably up there. I've just realised I haven't actually got him written down today. I need to change that. But, you know, we don't actually have that winger to go for. It's why, in an ideal world for me, it's not going to happen, but in an ideal world for me, we would sign Cunha and Bumo and actually then like another young winger, almost like a project winger that we could use. I would quite like that. I think a project winger at the football club is always nice to see. Maybe like a Bendito Mantato from the academy could become that. Maybe. You guys are right, by the way. Dallo is number 2, not 20. I will change that for next time. A good point. 40 more likes, guys. 40 more likes, and the content is going to be, you know, this mini-series, watching back old stuff. It's going to be free for everyone. So, basically, if you want something to watch while you're eating your food, or something to send you to sleep at night, my content is the place to be. The last 2 streams will be made available, and all future streams will be available to everyone. So if you can't catch them live, you can watch them back in your own time. So, leave a like on the stream. Yeah, Malik Fofana. That's what I'd like it. Tactics aside, do you think Amorim succeeds this season, AJ? Ooh. I'm not meaning to sit on the fence here. I really think it depends on what you class as success. Is success top 4? Is that success? Or is top 6 but with obvious improvements success? Or top 8 with obvious improvements? Is another bad league season but winning the FA Cup, is that success? What do you think? What do you think? Chad, sorry, mate, I didn't hear you. You went for a tunnel. I think you're breaking up. Right, the 10s. Everyone's going to say Cunha. Everyone's going to be right. Cunha would be one of the 10s. What's Diego Leon's number? Not like his phone number. Be a bit weird. What's his shirt number? Do we know his shirt number? Am I being an idiot here? Am I being an idiot? And I've got full caps and I can't find my keyboard because the mic's in the way. Why can't I type it in? It's not working. Never mind. Well, I tried. Oh, it's because it's the wrong type of player thing. Don't worry, guys. For me, success is seeing big improvements, a blueprint, if you will. top 8 with improvements, genuine good football, then yeah, I think we can have success this season. I think we can have a successful year. Get a couple of good signings. Yeah, I think we absolutely can. I think top 8 is very doable. Yeah, sorry guys, I know Cunha's number. It was Diego Leon. I was forgetting his number. Because he was 37, right, at his last club, but obviously Cobby's got that number. Anyway, it doesn't matter because I was pressing the wrong thing. Anyway, right forwards, everyone's going to say Mbumo, right? And it's fair enough. Do we have Mbumo today? Where is he? There's so many players around this screen, I can never see where anyone is. Do we have Mbumo? Do we have him? Do we have him today? I can't see him. I don't think we do. I'll put someone else there. Sorry, Collier. You've been replaced. It hurts. Mbumo 43. Predictable. Striker. 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 Ooh, Manchester United need a goal. Who do you want up front? Because no one's going to want to say Højlund just because people don't like Højlund at the moment. But also Xerxes isn't really that go-to, you know, we need a goal, mate. But Chido Obi, is he too young? He's not even scored a senior goal yet. Maybe win back-to-back games? Pablo, you're right, mate. That is success. Win back-to-back games, we've done it. Life is complete. Okay, guys, in terms of the score on the goal front, we don't feel that we've got the striker we can turn to. We might sign someone, of course. Is that where you go, for example, Mbumo in there? Mount goes into a 10 and Cobby comes in? Is that the sort of thing you do? We haven't got a proper striker, which isn't ideal, but Xerxes going to cook next season, AJ, trust me. I think he will. I don't know if he will be... Like, I think he'll have a good season, but I don't necessarily know that he'll be like a starter that starts a lot of matches and necessarily suddenly score a load of goals. I think he'll score more than he did last season, and I think he'll play a lot better. But I don't know that he's suddenly going to become like a goal scorer number 9. But I'm looking forward to watching him, 100%. I don't know if it counts, but Obi scored against Hong Kong for his first 2 goals. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. Keep in mind, we're trying to break a team down. Yeah. And that's where it's about that balance of, yes, you want some people to come towards the ball and, you know, try and operate in the block. The opposition are 1-0 up, 10 minutes to go. They're going to be compact, aren't they? There's going to be lots of players behind the ball. Very little space to operate in. So that's where your tight space specialists are great. Having Cobby in there is lovely because he can take the ball in these little positions. He can operate in those zones. But you can't have everyone doing that, right? If you have, let's put Xerxes into the team. If I can find him, here he is. If you have Xerxes who wants to come towards it, Cobby who wants to come towards it, Cunha who wants to come towards it, Mount who can be a runner but wants to come towards the ball. If they're all coming towards it, it's all well and good operating in a tight space. But who's actually going to get your goal? I'm not saying Xerxes can't. I'm just thinking out loud here, basically. That's the point of these streams, by the way. You can kind of see the thought process that we're going through to try and figure these things out. That would be my question here. Who's actually going to be the one to go and grab the goal? Højlund? Yeah, exactly. Steve has said it there as well. Højlund is not necessarily everybody's favourite player in the world, right? But I think he's probably our closest thing to a goal scorer at the moment. Which maybe says more about the club than it does Højlund. But, you know, if we are looking for a scrappy goal, Højlund is more likely to stay there and be a tap-in merchant. Exactly. Literally as I said that. Tap-in merchant in the chat. Exactly. Maybe it is Højlund still? Rasmus has a trampoline touch? Yeah, but think about this, right, King? What if Rasmus tries to control the ball, but his touch is so bad that it accidentally fires top corner? I'm just saying that could be a good strategy. Every time Højlund's in front of goal, tell him to control the ball, and the touch might be so bad it goes in. Maybe we've got to think on a different wavelength here. I'm kidding. I feel sorry, Rasmus. I didn't mean that, mate. I like Højlund. I think there's a player in there still, but he's just hiding it very well. I'm trying to think here. Who is that goal scorer? You know, Ollie Watkins is someone who is good in the box, for example. He's a good target man. He'll score goals. Mateta would score goals. Osserman would score goals. We do lack that. We need a goal. Chuck it in there. Someone's going to be there. We do lack that massively. Like, actually, Maguire. Yeah. Like, it actually is Maguire, but in terms of sustainable squad building, that's probably not the solution you turn to in an ideal world. He's tricky. By the way, Chad gave me a little update that we're 24 likes away from 150, which means free streams for everyone, so you can watch the streams back. So, if you could please leave a like, you get to watch these streams back in your own time for free. So that sounds pretty good. So leave a like. Anyone remember the Hernandez goal, his first goal versus Chelsea? He kicked it into his own face. Javier Hernandez was the master of scoring goals that shouldn't be scored in that way. Like, unorthodox, hits him in the head, then the backside, then the back, and goes in. Oh, loved him. What a player. Hoyland can score goals in the box. There is no doubt about that. Very low on confidence. Is that going to be changing next season? I don't know. We're 19 likes away, guys. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Just to help you out, I'm going to go on my phone and like it for you. I'm going to leave a like on the stream. Just because I love the content, you know. It's just great content. Maybe it's Mbumo. Yeah, he's not necessarily, you know, like a target man striker, is he? He's not Osimhen in the box. But he does have the ability to sniff out a chance. He's often played in the front two at Brentford, so perhaps he could be that man. Could it be Cunha and Mbumo together? With, you know, for example, could you do this? Is this the way you go after a goal? This sort of idea. Again, I think in an ideal world, you want someone different to Dorgu. But I'm just Leon maybe. I think you want something different there, though. I think you want something different on the left. But if we don't possess that, well, that's an idea for us to, you know, look forward in terms of squad building for next summer. Because we're not going to get it all done this summer. There's no chance. You guys can all see how slowly we're operating in the transfer market. We're not going to sign every position that we need this year. Thinking ahead next year, which is something that we've been trying to do recently. I think central centre-back this week is something that has come up that maybe in 12 months we might need something different for the longevity of the team. Maybe left wing-back as well. The weird thing at left wing-back is we've got so much depth, but they're all like, not the same profile, they're not, but they're all similar types of players in the sense that they're all fullbacks who can get forward rather than being forwards or elite defensive fullbacks. They're good at forward fullbacks, if you know what I mean. Like, it is actually Shaw out there. Like, if you for 10 minutes needed a goal, Shaw actually probably is the best left wing back solution, even though people aren't going to like that. By the way, Luke Shaw, if he could stay fit, I think is one of the best left backs of all time. Genuinely believe that. The problem is Luke Shaw staying fit is not possible. Because it never happens. It's a World Cup year, so maybe it will happen this year. But yeah, we can't really rely on that. So I know it's a tricky one. In some games you could do it. Get Onana in the box. He's useless in ours, so maybe that can work. It's a possibility. It's a possibility. 10 more likes, by the way, guys. But yeah, running out of time because the stream's going to end soon. So if you want to be able to access all of these streams, for example, if you've just joined the stream and you want to be able to watch these without having to pay to be a member, then we just need 10 more likes. That's all we need. That's all we need. Because this man still needs help, doesn't he? He still needs help. Dorgu is not good enough. I don't think it's a case that Dorgu is not good enough. I think it's that he's not... in an ideal world, right? And Manchester is far from an ideal world, of course. But I think in an ideal world, what you do is you sign Dorgu, and he's a great squad player. He can play left wing back, he can play right wing back, he can play in the back four in the two fullback positions. Not necessarily a master at anything at this stage in his career, but if he had one player ahead of him, he was the second choice, a great squad option that can play both sides. I think it'd be so good for United. I think it'd be great for his development to not have too much pressure. Pick and choose his moments. The problem is, he's our first team, he's our starter, and he's probably not quite ready for that. But the options behind him are all really young or injured. So it's not quite ideal. Onana actually played as a striker last month in his hometown. True, he was skinning those defenders and maybe he's the man for the job. If Shaw could be a moderately fit left wing back, Heaven could cover the space. I think also if we have a wing back or a full back one side, a winger the other, it does give us some flexibility. You know, as much as it can create attacking problems, you know, almost actually, if you were to put a formation on paper, which I wouldn't normally encourage, but if you were, it actually starts to become more of like a back four shape when you do that, which is quite interesting considering everyone is so fixed on the idea of a back three. I think it proves that it's more about the players and the characteristics and the habits in each position rather than the actual starting shape. I love your videos, AJ. Make more. Okay, if I have to, I will. The problem is, right, I am in such a mood right now. I'm in such a place where I want to make loads of content because the channel recently, the support has been an absolute joke. It's been incredible. I want to make loads of content. I just don't know the content ideas. Like, I don't know what to make the videos on. I've got the time. I've got the passion. I want to make the videos. I've had some suggestions in the Discord server, and if you guys have video ideas, join a Discord server. That's the place to let me know, because I love feeding off your guys' ideas. It helps a lot. But that's the only problem I've got right now. We're also trying to grow the second channel at the moment as well, which is linked at the top of the chat. So make sure to go subscribe over there. I'm trying to grow that as well as much as possible ahead of the World Cup next year. So again, if you're just a football nerd who's not only obsessed with United, but just football, who loves hearing about transfers, loves hearing about the biggest matches, managers' tactics, go over to the second channel and check it out. Do anything, bro, I'll watch it. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. If you're growing, keep going. I'll best believe it, we are. We have done, I don't know, like 4 years of pretty much non-stop content. Last month was actually the least videos we've ever made in a month, I believe. Certainly for a couple of years. We've done 18 videos last month, which is really low because I was on holiday. And it was one of our best growing months ever, which is rather weird. Like I said, the support has just been mind-blowing recently. You'll see in the goal, okay, you won't because I forgot to change it. The plan is 65,000 for the start of the competitive season. That's the goal. That's the goal. Speaking of goals, Manchester United may have lacked them last season, but you guys never lack the ability to hit them. Because I said 150 likes, the goal set by Chad, 150 likes, and streams, old streams, future streams will be unlocked. So you don't have to be a member to watch streams. So you hit it. You hit 150 likes. So once this stream is finished, I'm not going to go back through every stream throughout history and unlock them all because there's too many. There's so many I can't go back and unlock all of them. But I will this series. So part 1 and 2 of this mini-series we've been doing, I will unlock those 2 streams for you all. And then streams from now on will stay unlocked to everyone because you guys hit 150 likes and because the support has been so good recently. So that's a little thank you to you guys. Also, thank you guys. Yeah, guys, like Chad has said there, if you join a Discord server, there's a specific channel in there for video and stream ideas. Drop your ideas there. And I'm sure, I think the link at the top of the chat is an old one. So I'm sure someone like Chad will drop a quick link in the chat. And if you join that, it's completely free to join the Discord server. You just click on the link. If you've got a Discord account, you're straight in. If not, make a quick account, which is free. And then you can join in with basically just a load of football waffle. We talk about transfer news, tactics, player opinions, random stuff, like really random stuff for some really random stuff. It's just a place basically to waffle with the community. And I tell you, I think our little corner of the internet, which is how I always describe it, it's our corner of the internet. I think it has one of the best communities out there. I genuinely do. I think the vibe of the community is so good. It's so good. No one's ragey, or if they are, they just get booted. No one's insulting. If they are, they just get booted. It's just a bunch of friendly people talking about football. So I recommend joining the Discord. Also, shout out you guys because you guys are the ones who have made the community. It's not me. It's you subscribing. It's you engaging. It's you being good people that has created it. So yeah, thank you very much for that. In terms of this particular stream, I think we've basically figured out that we should probably sign in Bumo, and after that, if possible, could we grab a striker, please? If not, then a central midfielder. In an ideal world, both. What's going to happen? We don't know exactly. We've got to wait and see. But yeah, what we've done this week, or the past 10 days now, is we've spoken about goal kicks, we've spoken about ball progression, and we've spoken about in the final third. What we're going to do next week should be on Tuesday, although I'm working on something which may disrupt that, but hopefully we'll be back on Tuesday, the usual schedule. We will go through the whole team, talk about United's starting 11 for next season, what looks ideal, before we've learned anything from pre-season, of course, where the gaps are, what we're good at, where we need work, where we need signings. So that will be the plan for the next stream next week. In terms of for today, though, I think we're finished there because we've been going an hour and 15, which is quite impressive. I've really been enjoying this series. I hope you guys have been as well. But yeah, like I said, for today, that is that, because I need some food and I need a drink and I need to make a video. I'm not sure if we've got a main channel video for today. I don't think we do. Apologies, like I said, I just don't have the ideas, or if I do have ideas, they need more work, so they're not ready for today. But there'll be content over the weekend, and there should be a second channel video over the weekend as well, and on Monday or Tuesday, whenever it is. So the content is going to keep coming. There may not be a video today, but don't worry, there will be videos. I'm aiming for 30 this month, so particularly towards the end of the month, when the preseason matches are here, you're going to see some double uploads to make up for it. So yes, thank you guys very much for the stream. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed, liked, turned notifications on, gifted memberships, got their own memberships, joined the Discord, subscribed to the second channel, sat quietly in the chat just minding their own business, and also the people that have been waffling away, and everyone, of course, that helped hit the like goal. Thank you all very, very much for the support, and I shall see you video tomorrow, video Sunday, streams next week. The content's going to keep coming. Hopefully Manchester United's summer is just getting started.